Hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. Sorry about the delayed start. We had a few technical issues getting Selwyn on board with us tonight, but we're all good to go now. So I just want to welcome Jacoba and Selwyn for coming along tonight and presenting about the pathway to becoming a judge. As always, if you have any questions that you wish to ask throughout the evening, there's a raise your hand little button on the top of your screen, or your other option is that you can type it up and put it in the chat section, and I will ask the question directly to Jacoba or Selwyn. Feel free to ask questions as we go, otherwise Selwyn and Jacoba will just kind of keep yarning on. So I won't hold us up any further. I will hand it over to Jacoba and Selwyn. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Amelia, and welcome everybody. Hope you have enjoy this bit of an informal chat just to see where my judging career is taking me and where Jacoba's is starting off, I guess. So I'm just about a has-been, but she's the new one coming through. So yeah. So I guess for me, I started judging when I did the old calf club thing at the local school days and got really interested in doing that, and then did the young farmers thing. I was lucky enough when I was in my teens to go to Australia at a youth camp over there, which was pretty much equivalent to what Holstein New Zealand run now. And we did the judging models and everything over there, and I got really keen on actually understanding why and speaking on why I placed animals and stuff. So that whetted my appetite big time. I also entered the Ayrshire Young Judge and the Holstein Friesian Young Judge, and I was lucky enough to win both of them. It took me 3 years to win the Ayrshire one and 2 years to win the Holstein one, but probably looking back it was the best thing out because it made me actually check and didn't think that I knew everything. So yeah, it was a good grounder. And then I was lucky enough to get some early judging appointments. I think I was 21 when I did my first Royal for Ayrshires. And from that point on, I was given the opportunity to run the judging schools for the Holsteins, and it was my passion. I love love showing, but also love judging cows and giving reasons, and I guess you get to the point where people start recognising you, and you get more and more jobs. So that led on to me doing a Jersey Royal and a Holstein Royal in New Zealand. And then further afield, International Jury Week, the Ayrshire's there, and then every major Royal in Australia, doing all breeds. 1 year I did a Brown Swiss at the Eka, and so yeah, that was good. And then that led on to obviously judging in the UK extensively, UK Dairy Expo, the Royal Winter Fair in Ireland, and then South Africa 3 or 4 times. In the US as well, and I was lucky enough to be an associate judge for the World Dairy Expo in Madison, which was pretty mind-blowing. And then I moved on to judging a big show at Louisville. So yeah, so it's taken me all around the world, and I'm lucky that I guess it has. I remember one day someone said to me, "You're like a rugby referee. They remember your bad performances, but they don't remember your good performances." And so I guess that my performances to other people were pretty reasonable, so that's why I was getting more and more tickets to go overseas. And the late Sir Brian Lahore said to me, who I was good friends with, he said, "Well, if you're going overseas judging," which he'd heard I was because we're locals, he said, "Make sure, 1, you wear a silver fern, and 2, be proud because you're representing the country and it's not about you. It's about you and New Zealand and where you've come from, your grassroots." So I've never forgotten that, and I've always made sure that, you stay grounded, and you're always learning all the time. And you don't go and think you know everything, and every day you learn something. I'm sure as a judge you do. And I guess I was lucky enough that I have the ability to describe what's in front of me and put it into the terms. So 1, you became an informer slightly an entertainer, but you don't want to overdo it. And it's not about you in the middle of the ring. It's about the exhibitors and the people around watching, that they can go away and go, I can understand what he's saying. And it's about being consistent as well. And then you're giving the confidence to the exhibitors that they're going to get treated fairly, whether first or last. So that's been my career. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I said, very, very humble and grateful for where it's taken me around the world.
Awesome. Well, that's very cool, and thank you for your introduction, Selwyn. For me, initially, I never actually planned on being a judge. I started off with calf club, and I grew up doing calf club. That then kind of bloomed into entering the show world. I've only really been showing for 6 years now, and it was kind of my third year where I was basically thrown in the deep end with the youth challenge, and I said, yep, I guess I'll judge. And then I went out, did it, and realised that I could actually do it. From a very young age, I was always quite often quite a shy person. I could not public speak for the life of me. I could go out on stage and I could dance and perform, but if you hand me a mic and tell me to talk, I just could never do it. So for me, finding judging, it created a lot of personal growth. And even now, if you hand me a script and you tell me to talk, I cannot talk. I have to improvise and go as with the flow and as I go. And so that, for me, I think is where judging has really helped me. So I started off with the youth challenge at Dairy Event, and then after I realised that, I can actually kind of do this a little bit, I went and entered the Ayrshire New Zealand judging competition that same day. I came second straight off the bat, and then I think it was Wendy, she said, right, Jacoba, you're coming to a judging school. I went to the Holstein Friesian judging school that February, so only a month after Dairy Event, and became an associate judge just like that. And so from there, it kind of really just took off. Like, I didn't really expect it to. And then, so the following year at Dairy Event, I entered the judges competition. I won the Ayrshire, and then I went on, and I think I got second or third overall in the worldwide size one. And then the following year, I decided that I wanted to give the Holstein Friesian one a crack, and I ended up winning the Holstein Friesian, and then went on to win the worldwide size all breed competition as well. So within 3 years, I kind of progressed quite a bit. I became a senior judge, started this year, and in all 3 judging schools that I've done, I was the highest pointed youth participant at a judging school, winning the Frank Pittsford Trophy 3 times, which is also very, very cool. So it kind of comes down to that early involvement, and I kind of hit the ground running hard and fast, and just really taking it as it comes. And so I remember saying in a Holstein Friesian interview, when I was asked about why I enjoyed judging so much, it was because I hadn't been showing for as long, so I didn't have the cows that I wanted to have. So I was judging the cows that I dreamed to have one day. And so for me, it also keeps me very grounded and focused on my breeding goals as a breeder, because I see these amazing cows in the ring, and I know that's what I want, that's my type of cow. And so it comes down to a lot of ambition, and I did get a lot of opportunities quite frequently in my first few years. Like the first show I associate judged with was at Stratford A&P. So straight off the bat, I was at a big show. I was nervous as anything. And having those mentors right from the get-go really, really helped. Matt Robinson was the first judge I judged alongside, and I think he really, really shaped me into the judge I am today. We both like very similar types of cows, but just the way that you handle and work the ring also is really important as a judge. And for me as well, I am really passionate about the youth, because I had that support and mentorship coming through, and I want to do my part to continue that going through. You've got to hand on, and you've got to return the favour essentially to those next kids coming through. So being a young handler and doing quite well in young handler competitions in particular, and being a fitter, that's where it really comes down to with the youth, and encouraging them and giving them the opportunities to continue. So yeah, I think judging just kind of rounds everything together. And I do have a lot of goals and ambitions, and I hope to make it overseas like Selwyn has, but I've also got a lot of years ahead of me, and I've got to keep my goals focused, and you've got to stay driven. Like, you might not get the judging jobs that you want, but that's how it goes, and you've just got to keep ticking along and just take things as they come day by day, and one day you'll get a phone call and you'll be asked to come and talk at something like this, or asked to go judge at a show, and yeah, it does pay off.
So just someone can't see my presentation in front of him. So
yes, I can.
So, you can? Brilliant.
I can. I just want to follow on from Jacoba. It's, for me, doing judging schools and things and watching these young ones come through is pretty rewarding. Well, very, very rewarding. And so what she said, how she started and where she's got to, I think looking at her journey, and it's because she's driven and she has that passion. And for me, being the overjudge for so many years in the Holsteins, it really does give you a really big sense of satisfaction for that. We know that we're actually doing a good job of promoting these young ones and helping them and not overfacing them, but giving them some tips, etc. And there's been, like for me the other day at Stratford, it was so cool for me to judge with Ryan Lett. It's the second time I've judged with him, but he was a young fella that spent time with me and back in the Wairapa days, and to see him come through to be the judge he is today, and I feel very proud of what he's achieved as a bit of a mentor. So I think when we look, we talked a while ago about these the Pitcairn Trophy and things, and we went through the groups. There was the Tony O'Connors, the Graham Stewarts, Richard Crows and myself at that sort of time, Kerry Robbins, etc. And then there's the next group, and then there's the next group down. But we think there's a missing group in those 30-year-old pluses, whereas now we've got these young ones coming through. And I think because of our judging schools and the passion that drive from Jacoba, there's young people out there that want to be looking up to Jacoba now and saying, I want to be a Jacoba. So, or a Holly Powell or someone like that, because Holly's went out and judged a Rangiora show and things. So it's really good, and I think we are doing a good job mentoring, and really super proud. So I just wanted to add that after what Jacoba said. So
Yeah, I do agree, and I think just the judging pathway as a whole, you've got to have that mindset and that passion for it as a forefront. And like, I guess to describe the mindset of what makes a good judge, or what kind of qualities you should seek in yourself if you're trying to become a judge, you want kind of like a divided amount, because you want to be that ambitious, driven, passionate person, and you've also got to be strong and uphold your opinions and be able to speak about yourself, especially if you place a class, and you've got to be able to justify why you did things that way. So in that asset, you've got to be a very strong person, but then you've also got to be that open, humble, mentorship kind of person that inspires other people, and you uphold the idea that you are that mentor now as soon as you step into the middle of the ring and you're conducting that ring.
yeah.
So do you guys just want to go through kind of what's on the screen in front of people now and just break these things down? Selwyn, being the judge that you are and the experience that you've had, you should be able to give a bit more details on the judging schools for the other breeds.
Okay, yeah, well, I've obviously been through them as well. Probably not as tough as what we make it. So you've got to obviously score, I think it's every 4 or 5 years, go to an Ayrshire one, and the Jersey one is pretty similar as well. And they don't have to score as high as what we do, but they certainly do run good judging schools. We've had an All Breeds one down in Southland last year at Morton's, which was attended by Jersey, Holstein and Ayrshire members, and it was good. It was an All Breeds classes in every one. So, but our ones, we run it yearly, and we try and change our regions around a bit. Sort of one maybe in the Waikato, one in Taranaki, or if it's Taranaki, maybe Manawatu alternating, and Waikato's pretty standard. And then we run the Christchurch one, and then maybe further down, depending on numbers. And so you have to attend every 2 years if you're a senior judge, and if you don't, you have to have a good letter or reasons why you can't come. There may be a bereavement, or there may be just work commitments or whatever, and you'll get a dispensation. Hit the score, as Jacoba said. She's been along to them year in, year out when she's been able to, and score 2 scores at 85 percentile, and that's on your placings, your reasonings, your ringcraft manner, and your microphone technique. And so that's over 3 classes. You've got a mature cow class, a 2-year-old, 2 and 3-year-old class, and yearlings. Sometimes it's calves. And then we assess, 2 over judges assess, and as I said, we don't say that we know everything, but we're trying to get consistency, and we're trying to get people explaining their reasons why, what's actually in front of them, as opposed to listening to someone in the US or Canada or Australia or even New Zealand and having these fancy terminologies, that sometimes, to me, whilst they sound good, like one of my pet hates, a cow that walks, Judge will say, oh, she walks uphill nicely. Well, any cow can walk up a hill if you put it in front of her, or she's got a nice hard top on her. But to Joe Bloggs standing around the ring, what does a top actually mean? So that's what happens to there, and so that's how it goes. There's no limit of age when you can start and when you have to finish. But you get, I'll use Ryan as an example. He goes to judging school every year, even though he doesn't have to attend, but he enjoys it, and I think that's made him a better judge, because he's gone every year in, year out, if he can. And it's always good to hear, and like as I've always said, we're learning. The over judges are learning as well. Every day we learn something in a judging school. And I hope that my big take on is that when we run a judging school, I just hope someone there takes away some little bit of thing that either I or Bradley or whoever's running the schools, it may help them in their career. And a good thing I think I say to people, go home and actually, if you're picking on legs or something, or rear udder height or width, go home and actually look at your cows when you're milking them, and just pick out which one in the row or whatever has got the highest rear udder or the widest rear udder, or which one, when you're getting the cows in, walks past the rudder and got a good depth of heel, etc. So that's, I think it's important that if you want to aspire to be a judge, that you attend these judging schools. And even if you don't want to be a judge, it's probably good to come along and have a go, have a listen, and for your own mind, put it in your mind what constitute a good looking cow. Now it's all about functionality. It's all about the functional cow, how it tracks, how it walks, how much capacity it's got, the other attachments, etc. But it comes down to when you get into those finer placings, and when there's 2 cows really, really close together, then you take in the cosmetic, what I call the cosmetic things that you particularly like, as opposed to that. But it's number 1, functionality, and number 2 is the most functional cow to me, the most dairiest cow to me should win, and etc, etc. But if you get some really close ones, well, it becomes your own personal cosmetic fads and fancy sort of thing. So yeah.
And I think, just to add, some people do think that the judging school is just you going out, judging a group, being graded, and that's about it. But at the start of the day, before the judging school actually starts, Holstein Friesian and the over judges grab an animal and they show you what they want to look for in an animal, and they kind of explain bits, and they get different people in the crowd to name a thing that they like on the animal. So I think also just keeping that in mind for the people that are listening, you're thinking of coming to a judging school, but you're worried that you don't know what to look for. There's those opportunities at the start of the day that do genuinely teach you as well. So do also keep that in mind.
Yeah.
What makes a good judge?
Ooh, Jacoba, where you go?
So I think it first off comes back to the mindset thing that I said before. You've got to have that divided mindset where you're basically not two different people, but you've got those two different sides of you interacting together to make one whole good judge. So you need to be willing to be humble and take every opportunity, big or small, and put yourself out there, ask questions. Everybody says no question's a dumb question. Sometimes you can feel a little bit silly asking questions, but that's how you learn. I know myself, I will ask a question just so that other people can understand. And that's also another thing for youth as well. Like, you ask a question yourself to get the overviewer to answer it so that everybody else hears it. You've got to be a leader. You need to have leadership qualities as well. And I think going with the mindset of every opportunity, what value does this opportunity give me, and like, how can this opportunity help me improve my judging style and help me work towards my next steps in the big picture. So I think you need to be a whole rounded person and understand what you want, but also be humble enough to accept what's coming as well. If we look at voicing your opinions in a confident manner, that comes back to the divided thing. So obviously you need to be respectful with what you say. We're taught to not say anything bad about an animal, so you need to learn about how you frame the way that you're saying things to come off in a positive manner, and you need to be able to justify why you've made the decision that you have. I know myself, it can be quite intimidating when you have older, more experienced judges asking you, oh, why did you do that? And you explain it to them and they go, oh, actually, I see your point. That does feel quite rewarding, and you need to be willing to be able to stand up for yourself, because you know the decision that you made and why you made it at the end of the day. And Selwyn, if you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, that's really well summed up. I think it's the big thing is you are there to be a judge, you're there to be an informer and impart your knowledge on why you're placed in that way, and that's through your reasonings. And you've got to be professional, you've got to look the part, you've got to dress nicely, etc., and you've got to look enthusiastic. Now, I'll give an example. I judged World Dairy Expo, came home and I did, no, it was Louisville, so I came home and then I did Morrinsville show about 10 years ago afterwards, and there was only 2 animals in the class, and I had sort of 40 or 50. I took my dad with me for a ride, and after 3 classes he whistled me over and he said to me, you don't look very enthusiastic, do you? I said, well, it's a bit of a come down, you know. And he said, pull your head in. He said, these people have paid their entry fees and they've come along and they've asked you to judge. Now, it's not medicine, it's Morrinsville show, and be respectful. And that was the biggest boot in the butt that I'd had. And it was really good because it grounded me, and I was like, yeah, you're dead right, Dad. I agree with you 100%. And straight away I changed my thing. And no, I should never have got like that. I should never, but it was a good, timely reminder. So you have to, I think you've got to always be, it's great to get to judge a show, whether big or small. You go along there because they want you to come along, and you dress nicely, you're respectful, you speak well, you're informative, and that's really, really important to me. I can remember years ago, and my local show, and we had a judge there, and there's another breed, and there was 3 2-year-olds in the class, and he took about 35 minutes, maybe more, and he went round and round and round and round, and he looked at them again, and he looked at another one, and he came back and he goes, I think I'll give you first, and I think I'll give you second. Now, I was second, and I should have said to him if I was quick enough, well, I think you should look again, and I reckon he would have. But that's just a confidence thing. So even if you make a muck up and you think, geez, I've stuffed that up, if you're confident and you can talk your way out of it, that's fine. Decision making under pressure is a good one there. That at times when you get to judge bigger shows, there's high profile cows that might have been winning elsewhere, but on the day she doesn't look as good, or they haven't come up as good, or there's a cow that's come from left field that no one knows about and comes out there. You have to make those big calls at times, and I've had to make those big calls, especially overseas, and you have to do it with respect, but you also have to do it that you can back up very, very well. So then, everybody knows, well, yeah, that's the reason why. So decisions under pressure is a big thing, and that's, as long as you handle it right, that's really good. But yep, communication, professionalism, yeah.
I think that was a really, really good point, because you need to judge the cow as the cow is in the ring. You're judging what is in the ring and what's in front of you. Like, you might have an outstanding cow that you know who she is and you know that she's bloody good, and she comes into the ring and you can see that, for example, say her seam's gone or it's going, and there's a cow that can place ahead of her. You need to be, like Selwyn said, willing to make those difficult decisions, even though you might get somebody that comes up to you and say, why the heck did you do that? I know myself, it is hard to make those decisions, but yeah, like Selwyn said, you've got to be able to be confident and stick up for why you've done what you've done.
I think you get more respect, Jacoba, and everybody else listening, if you do make those decisions, those tough decisions, and handle yourself well, as opposed to going, oh, well, I know she's a really good cow, and we'll put her first today when she shouldn't be. That's when people will go, oi, that's not the right decision. So yeah, I think you gain more, the tougher decisions you have to make, and I've made it, the more respect you gain.
For sure, yeah.
What I probably personally love doing judging overseas, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any cows. Yes, I'd seen cows in magazines, etc. But I loved that, and I didn't know any of them. So the big thing, you don't want to be halter judging. That's the leader. You don't want to be judging the leader. You got to judge what's in front of you. And there was, I enjoyed. And what the feedback I got, they really enjoyed it, because I didn't know any of them. They didn't know me, and it was fresh, and that's how it went.
It's unbiased, yeah.
Yeah, unbiased.
Because you can find yourself, like, subconsciously being biased towards animals or leaders and that kind of stuff. So that's something that you also learn as a judge. You need to go in with a fresh mind and act like you don't know anything, and once again judge what is in front of you in the ring that day.
Well, I can give you an example about that, and you're a part of it. You're a fantastic leader. And at Morrinsville show last year, you let a donkey out, and I had to put you bloody last. But I know how good you are, but I just didn't. It wasn't the animal's fault. It wasn't your fault. It was just one of those days, and you took it well, and I felt bad about doing it, but then I thought, well, no, I can't do it. So
Exactly,
yeah. So.
And then the common challenges. So handling criticism, we have covered that quite a bit, and I think that's probably, as a young judge, the most difficult thing. You've got to be strong in yourself and be able to accept criticism with a grain of salt. I know that I've had things said to me and I'm like, okay, that's going to affect me a little bit later when I think about it a bit deeper, but you've got to not think about it. Like, people will cast their opinions very harshly and very fast sometimes, just in the fire of the moment, and I've definitely learned in the last few years, I've gained a lot of self-respect through judging, and that's something that you need to have to be able to take that criticism. And you get people that like different types of animals as well, and that's kind of where it comes down to. You have your different preferences and what you decide or what you feel is a more major fault compared to something else, and somebody might have a complete different opinion on that. And somebody might speak poorly of why you've said that, but yeah, you need to be able to hold yourself strong and justify why you've done it, and like I said, take it with a grain of salt. It's most of the time people forget what they say, and yeah, they don't actually mean it. And then staying up to the breed standards, I know Holstein Friesian with their judging schools, they run it very, very professionally, which is quite a compliment to be able to achieve that associate and senior judging certificates. So I think just staying relevant with how cattle are progressing, like Holstein Friesians, for example, they got really, really big, and now we're seeing kind of a shift in that trend where we're focusing on not having quite so big animals, having a more sounder structure, but a bigger barrel, for example, and just kind of understanding why and what the functionality of the cow is, like what Selwyn said. So functionality comes first. And then not everybody agreeing with your decision, that comes back to criticism again. You're never going to please everyone. At the end of the day, the judge's decision is final, and sometimes you just need to remind yourself that, and you've made the decision that you think is the right decision at the end of the day. So
yeah, it's well summed up, very well summed up. So I think you've got to take criticism on board to become a better judge as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you don't want to go and get criticised and then concede, I was wrong and you're right. And I think you need to hold your ground and you're given the reasons why. If you have to explain again to the person or people, fine. Some people won't let it go. I remember myself, my own experience judging many years ago on a remote show way down the South Island, and I got absolutely bollocked afterwards by another breed. I was judging the Holsteins at the time, and this guy gave me an absolute telling off, and he said, I heard you're the best judge in New Zealand, but you're the worst judge I've ever seen, and you didn't place our cows, and we were last and last and last on the all breeds. I was like, oh, yeah. Told him the reasons why, what I was looking for. They didn't match with what I was looking for, and he kept going on and on and on. And in the end, I just said, look, did the results get hand printed in the local paper? He said, yes, they do. They'd have a big pictures and lots of results written about the show. I said, well, buy one on Monday because the results will be printed, and I guess I'm right and you're wrong. Read the results. So that shut him up. So, but anyway, that's just a bit of fun on it. But yeah. No, you got to handle criticism. If you go away and worry yourself about it, it's not going to make yourself confident for the next show. And I think the big thing is that you go home from the show when you judge, and I always go home, I analyse it, go, well, is there any classes that I'd change, or how do I think I went, or whatever, and you go, no, I'm happy with my decisions. Very rarely do you go home and go, oh, geez, I got that one wrong, or, maybe I was a bit harsh on one or whatever. But it's first impressions, and if you can walk out of that ring, hold your head high and say you've done a good job, then you've satisfied yourself, number one, in your own personal strength, and then the exhibitors and spectators.
Do you want me to speak on this or yourself, Selwyn?
No, you can. You're the young gun.
So the opportunities for aspiring judges, I think I've really taken advantage of the opportunities, and I think everybody should really be doing that to first off get yourself out there, get the experience, and learn from it. But you also, I don't know, it gets your name out there a lot, and it shows people who you are and what you're capable of, and they'll remember you from the first time you stepped in the ring, and then a year later you'll get back in the ring and be like, holy moly, like, where has this person come from? Like, that's something that comes along with taking these opportunities. So we've got the Pitcairn Trophy and the other breed judging competitions, so those are all held at Dairy Event each year. They are free entry as well, and I think for me, when I was starting off, and even now, it's you get your scorecards back and you get to see what you're judged and what you're critiqued on. And so it's quite good to see the breakdown of where you could improve from an outside point of view. Like, I know myself, I would do the judging competitions and I'd think I'd talked absolutely terribly and I'd made no sense and I couldn't remember what I'd said in my placings, and then I'd get perfect marks for my speaking and Mum would be like, no, you're actually, like, what you said was bang on. And so it's kind of a bit of peace in mind, but then it also shows where you can improve on. In judging ringcraft, and like how you manage the ring is also graded in those judging competitions. So it's basically a presentation right from the get-go. And then age limit. I think they used to have like a minimum age, but now we have so many young people, like young Angus and my brother Xavier, they're all under that age limit, and all the breed societies keep letting them in. So if you think you're too young, you're never too young. I'll pull Amelia's arm if she says you are. And then judging skills, like I said, with the judging skills, you are graded once again, but you also have those learning opportunities at the start of the day, and a lot of very high profile judges come to those events to teach and to engage with youth as well. So you need to be willing to ask those questions, and even just talking to Warren, for example, he knows a cow inside out, and just so many other random things that he can say that you're like, oh, that makes sense, and that flows into that, and there's just so many different elements to it that you wouldn't realise unless you have genuine conversations with people about it, which is why the judging skills are so good. Youth judging days. This is kind of a new thing that Holstein Friesian are coming out with, and they're trying to develop more youth days as well. I think it's a very good opportunity for youth because it is a little bit less intimidating than maybe a judging school. Everybody's kind of on the same level. You're all very young. You're all just starting out. You don't have some of the old fellas that think their way's the right way. That can be a little bit scary. So if you're aspiring to be a judge, you should really, really consider going to those youth judging days. And then associate judging positions, big or small, you need to take them. I was very lucky with the associate positions I was given. I was offered to judge at Stratford and then Christchurch, which are two of the best or biggest shows in New Zealand, really. So to get those straight off the bat was very, very lucky. But then I've also been asked to judge small little just local club days and that kind of stuff. And so you have kind of like what Selwyn said with his international shows versus Morrinsville. No matter the show, you need to try take those opportunities. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. Once again, that's the only way that you're going to learn the deeper level to it. So, yeah.
For you, all eyes will be on Rotorua on Saturday because you're judging the Holsteins there.
Yeah, my first senior judging position.
Oh,
so
good. No,
appropriate time for this.
Yeah, super proud of you. No, well done. And I'll be over to watch you too. So, but yeah, you've summed it up perfectly well. I know in my day, competing for the Pitcairn Trophy, we had to have a run-off in our regions to actually get there. So we had a prelim to go to it because there was so many people aspiring to get there. And yeah, it was tough going to even win your region. To go to the nationals you went through a bit of pain as well. So no, it was really, really good. We just want to get back to that level. But yet those young ones coming through, young Angus and Xavier, boy, they're going to be good judges in a few years' time because they're placing them pretty good now and they're speaking pretty well as well. So that's, I think, part of the showing that they've been brought up with and doing. And Big Sister obviously doing well, and
I think he just wants to beat me. He doesn't really
care
what I have to say. He just wants to be better than me.
Oh yeah, no, he will. But yeah, and it's like Amelia and I've had the little judging day down in Otrahonga, and whilst it wasn't very well attended, maybe time or whatever, we've got to look at that. But it was a good day for the two young fellas that turned up. They thoroughly enjoyed themselves and did well. And I think we have to make those days, like you said, if you go to you're a youngster and you're going to judging school and you don't really know, you're pretty green, and you listen to a Warren Ferguson or a Ryan Leder or Corey Ferguson or whoever speaking, you go, well, geez, I can't do that. They could get overawed. So that's why we want to focus on these new ones coming through, these little fellas and little girls, and make sure that if they want to have the pathways through to become a Jacoba or a Holly or a Ryan or whoever, they can do it. We give them the opportunity to do it.
So thank you guys. So it's just an opportunity to open up to those that are listening. If you have any questions that you want to put to Jacoba or Selwyn, as I said, you can either click the raise your hand, I'll unmute you, or oh, here we go. Put it in the chat. What have you got for me, Fiona? Do you need to be a breeder or on a farm to become a judge? Great question.
No. It's my answer. You have to have the passion. You want to do it, yeah. So, yeah. No, I don't think that's...
So to enter the judging, youth judging competitions at dairy event, you need to be a member of that breed society. But to become a judge in general, the answer is no.
No, you can come along.
Just to clarify that, yeah.
Yeah, you can come along and it's an open day, but I think to get on the panel judges lists, you would probably have to become a member then, yeah.
What if you're a more mature person?
That doesn't matter. We can take them 90-year-olds down to 5-year-olds, so we accommodate for all.
What has been the most significant change in the Holstein Friesian breed in the last decade?
Personally, what I've noticed, and especially been overseas, is the stature. I think Jacoba brought that up before. The stature, and even at World Dairy Expo, the stature is coming down. There's more capacity through the cow, both front end and mid-drift and fore and rear rib, etc. So there is a smaller, not a miniature cow, but there's a smaller statured cow that's more in proportion, more well balanced, I guess is a terminology. I've found that, and that's more now the go-to rather than those big tall dinosaur giraffe looking type animals, and that comes back to even the guys overseas are saying they want a smaller moderate sized cow because they are more efficient and give them less problems in the barn situation, i.e. leg issues, foot issues, etc., and even fitting in the tie stalls or the free stalls. Those big girls, the barns aren't big enough for them, so that's why it's more efficiency, I guess, is what I would be saying.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
interesting.
stature's... Oh, sorry, you continue.
Sorry, Jacoba. Interesting that at the dairy event we've had some overseas judges, we predominantly do, and they've been amazed that the quality of our cattle, yeah, and even they were saying, like that they had this thing in their mind that they're programmed in because they heard New Zealand was the little wee small cows, Kiwi cross type cow or whatever, but they've come down here and been pleasantly surprised. So, yeah. Sorry, Jacoba.
I was just going to say stature's, I think for me, or from what I've seen in the past few years, is definitely the biggest, most significant change. But I think also what happens with breeding is cattle are becoming more consistently good cattle. And that comes down to the generations of selective breeding. But I think as a whole, we're having cows that have greater longevity, their udders are lasting longer, they've got a better support, better attachment, better udder texture, and they're more milky cows, but they're lasting that time period as well.
Yep. And we're seeing that through the show ring as well.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Those are some great questions coming through from both Fiona and Richard. So, do you have any final comments, Selwyn and Jacoba, before we finish up tonight?
No, I've enjoyed it. It's been good. As I said, I am really proud of our young ones that are coming through, and the Holsteins particularly. And you know, I love judging the show and getting a kick out of it, but I also get real big satisfaction when I hear about these young ones that are coming out and doing a good job, because one, I think the association's doing a really good job in providing the pathways through the judging schools, etc. So I think the association's doing a good thing there, and will continue to do so, I'm sure. But for me and for the other guys that have mentored these people, you know, we get a real good satisfaction, but they feel good about it. And look, if they go to a show and they muck up or they do something wrong, you know, we'll be having a quiet word to them. But I have complete confidence in all our young judges that are coming through consistently well. You know, there's some good results coming through in our young judges that are just moving up. You know, I think we moved up Jacoba last year, Dean Fullerton last year, and Holly Powell. And those three would have all done, after Jacoba does this, they've all had shows this year. So look, you know, that's really rewarding for us as a group. So, you know, keep up the good work, and I'm sure we've got the next batch coming through as well. So
yeah, and I think for me, like, the different, I guess, the younger point of view or perspective of it is that we've got those, not to call you older, Selwyn, but we've got those people that are willing to teach us, which is really, really what has grown so many young judges into who they are today. Like, there's so many more experienced judges that are willing to pass on. They're not keeping all this knowledge to themselves. They want to help and they want to inspire. And I think for me in the long run, that's who I want to be as a judge as well. I want to be able to inspire that next generation, just like the likes of Selwyn and Warren and all of those fellas have done. So
yeah, I think, like, when I started off very young, I think the older judges didn't want to give you the time of day too much. They didn't want to part with their knowledge because they thought, hang on, you might be going to judge instead of them, sort of thing. Whereas now we're all on the same page, and I think that's a big difference now. And as I said, we are super proud of our young ones coming through, and we offer that pathway coming through. So yeah, really, really proud of the next generations we've got.
Yeah. So just another question that's come through that, Jacoba, I think you've done a little bit of this, so you might be able to answer it. Why is it such a big difference between calf club judging and pedigree judging?
Calf club judging, I kind of always look at it as calf club is the child orientated. It's all about child effort and the child's connection with the animal. So you're judging essentially the child and their efforts with the animal as a forefront, whereas pedigree, when you're judging in the ring, you're judging the animal. You don't even look at the leader. You don't care who the leader is. You're looking at the bone structure and the quality of the animal that's in front of you. So obviously there's parts of calf club that's very similar, so dairy type. Calf club judges traditionally like a different style of animal to pedigree rings for the most part. But then you've got those rearing and leading classes, and so leading does kind of tie into handlers a bit, but rearing is very, very child orientated, and I guess we don't have so much of that in the pedigree ring. We just want to see what the animal looks like, and that's about it, really.
The other thing is identifying, I guess, the handling side of things in a calf club versus handling side of things in a pedigree. Just the way you handle the calf can be very different. So it's judged very differently from that aspect as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And, you know, obviously, pedigree ring, all the animals are clipped, basically, whereas a calf club's not. And some of those calf club, and I do feel sorry for some of those calf club kids, they come into the ring and their calves, because they can't clip them, are not clipped, and but they are still damn good calves, and you try and, you know, place them as high as you can. So, but it wouldn't hurt for the calf club kids to come along to do a leading thing. They don't have to take everything on board, but just a few. You know, see some of the calf club kids, you know, they walk along and they're looking at the crowd rather than looking at the judge, sort of thing. Just little tips like that, or, you know, okay, it's a wet day, yes, gumboots are acceptable, but not gumboots are not acceptable in the pedigree world in the ring, you know. Just little pointers like that. So yeah, we could engage with the calf club people, I guess, and if they were keen to, we could impart some knowledge, or Jacoba could impart some knowledge on them.
I guess the other thing around the rules is you don't have to be a judge, a pedigree judge, to judge calf club.
No.
They have a very different selection in the way that they do it, as you're only judging calves, you're not judging in milks, and as Jacoba explained, you are doing a lot of it more on the actual handler and the person that's holding the calf rather than the actual animal in the ring. So, but your youth judging days, Selwyn, would be perfect for those kinds of kids, right?
Oh, definitely.
Get them along and just kind of talk through that aspect of, this is kind of the type of animal that you're, you know, how to break that animal down into parts so that you can get a better idea of what a pedigree judge might be looking for if you're moving up into those classes.
Yeah, I've done a lot of calf judging over the years, and I still do it, but every now and then, and I really like engaging with the kids, seeing what the calf's names are, because you come out with some hilarious names and why they've called them. You know, like there's a young fella that had a speckled park, and I said, "Oh, what's your calf's name?" Well, we said Steak, or, you know, so little things like that is hilarious, and you do get to judge the big calves as well, and some of these kids do an absolutely brilliant job of preparing them, and they're brushed to the absolute 10th minute of just getting every hair out, and, you know, it's unbelievable, and their leading's fantastic. So yeah, but no, it's all good.
I've just got someone else typing, so you can keep talking.
Oh.
It's great we're getting questions. We don't normally get a lot of questions, so this is great. Here you go. What do you suggest is the next step to take from here?
Right, well, that lady's keen is just to get in contact with Amelia or the office or whoever, and we can give some guidance on when we're going to have a judging day, etc., or come along and listen, come along and see us. And I'm sure that you know, we'll be doing these regional ones again, Amelia, won't we?
Yeah, so the easiest thing to do is actually to follow our social media pages, either Holstein Friesian New Zealand through Facebook, or through our Instagram, because as soon as the dates are set in stone, we share them on there so that people can be aware. And as we said, open to everybody to attend, and it's free to attend as an associate or to go into that associate position. So normally they're about February, March, depending on availability of judges and farms and things like that, and weather. We've had issues in the past where the weather's turned to crap and no one really wants to stand out in a paddock and do a judging school when cows are hunched up and it's pouring down with rain. So we try to do it in summer, near the end of summer, to try and target when the cows are still looking all right. So yeah, just keep an eye out on our social media pages, and just reach out to me and I can let you know when things are coming up. All my details are available through the website and things like that. So yeah, just reach out we're more than happy to help in any way we can.
The only time that I've been to a judging school, it's been a stinking drought and it's poured down, and every farmer that was there was really happy, so they all got wet, but they were pleased to get wet at that stage.
Yeah, there's happy wet, and then there's this is miserable and cold, and
Yeah. Agreed.
I've run youth judging days in Taranaki, and it was torrential rain, and we were hiding in a barn, and all of us were shivering and curled up next to each other. So there's good wet, and then there's not so good wet. So yeah. And then the youth judging days, so that'll possibly be around about April for the Waikato one. So yeah. Here's a great question for you guys. What was your greatest challenge or defining moment while judging?
For me, it was UK Expo, not the one that, what was it called? It was back at Birmingham anyway. It wasn't the one I had the photos on. And I judged the Ashes there. I guess all the world delegates were there. And the next day we had Interbreed, and the Holstein cow and the Ayrshire cow tied for first. And all the other judges, they couldn't split them, a little bit like we had at Stratford the other day, to be fair. Couldn't split them. And they went to the crowd and asked 3 or 4 different senior judges if they would come in and split these two, the Ayrshire cow and the Holstein cow. And they refused to. I went over to the organisers and said, well, you've got a stalemate. And I said, I haven't travelled 12,000 kilometres or 15,000 kilometres to, and then they talked about tossing a coin, and I said, I haven't done that for this to happen. So the Holstein judge and I worked it out between us, and he agreed that the Ayrshire cow was the best cow, which was pretty rewarding. And I guess that the crowd was in suspense, and I guess the defining moment for me was actually being given that task to go out and tap out the cow. And I dramatised it a little bit, walked towards the Holstein, went back to the issue, etc. So I think that was my defining moment as a judge, and probably World Dairy Expo is my defining moment.
Jacoba, you're still really early in your judging career, but what have you got so far?
Right on Saturday.
Yes, that will be a very big defining moment, being my first senior appointment. But greatest challenge, probably the first time I was thrown in the deep end at Dairy Event doing the youth challenge. That was pretty difficult, and then I came out of it and I realised I can actually do this. And then that's where my passion for judging really fired off. But also another challenge, which is a little bit different, was just a bit of self-doubt. I always kind of thought, do I actually have what it takes? And I remember distinctly, I don't want this to put people off judging schools, but one judging school, I think it was my second one, and we were at Warren's farm, and there was, I can't remember who it was, but there were 2 people that were arguing about these cows, and I was the only female there, and a little old, probably 16-year-old Jacoba, maybe even 15, and I was absolutely terrified in that moment. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into coming here? Like, these people won't want to listen to me. But just being able to overcome that as well is a very big defining moment. I've learned a lot about myself and grown a lot of self-respect, like I said before, and a lot of confidence, which does also come with age and getting different roles in society as well, like getting a job and finishing high school and that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, I think for me, my greatest challenge was myself, but then my most defining moment was also myself. So, yeah.
I think it's actually a great way to end this evening. So thank you both, Jacoba and Selwyn, for sharing your experiences tonight, and hopefully those that have been listening have been able to get some insight into what it involves to become a judge and how they can get involved if that's what they're interested in. As I said, everything is available through our website, so keep an eye out on our social media. And the same with the other breed societies. They'll put it up there on when their upcoming judging schools are, or for any youth ones that we're doing. And if you are a young person that's going to dairy event and you want to take part in the Pitcairn's Challenge or anything like that, you do need to register for that. But if we get to the day and then you say that, oh, actually, I'm interested in taking part, we won't turn you away. So have a think about it leading into it. And as Jacoba said, put yourself out there, give it a go. You've really got nothing to lose. It's all a learning curve. So take that opportunity. And yeah, so thank you, Jacoba. Thank you, Selwyn. And thanks everyone for joining us. And if you want to re-listen or anything, this will be available on our YouTube, so you can go back if there's anything you want to catch up on. But yeah, so we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you all so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, thanks for having me. Enjoy it. Good luck for Saturday, Jacoba.
Thank you. See you there.
See you there. Thanks, everybody.